if you could buy your dream home. Now we're not talking, $10 million,
Yeah.
right? But like, what would be your next home if it was a dream home? Say you had a bit of extra budget, you could like pay a little bit for some of the nicer stuff. What would that home look like? What would it have that you don't quite have right now?
Yeah. I think a larger detached garage would be pretty sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I've got like in my current garage, I have a single car garage.
Okay.
No cars parking there. We have a golf putt. We have a golf putting green and a hitting net with a nice big mirror.
Okay.
If we could make that like detached, maybe like 2.5 car. Like I would love. My dream is like to have a garage that has like an office,
Okay.
a gym, and a golf simulator.
In a garage.
Yeah, just you keep it heated all year. You're good to go. Like my dad has like a detached heated garage,
Wow.
and so he goes like he has like a bike trainer in there.
Really?
That he uses all winter. So he literally just presses a button on his phone, turns up the heat to whatever he wants, goes out there, rides his bike, turns down the heat, and he leaves. But it's like, okay, if you could have that, something like that. Like I know another guy, contractor friend of mine, who he built this, and he built a separate space for his office, and then he's got like a nice little hangout area. And
I thought about a garage for an office, but that is interesting.
like, because it's kind of nice to sometimes just, like I've been going to the office recently, like for a few hours in like kind of the middle of the day as opposed to just working from home or whatever. And it's kind of nice to just have like a little change of scenery, go do something, have like, just get out. And even if that's just, walking to your detached garage.
I think that idea.
I think that'd be really nice.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I would want in terms of like style. Like I've always really liked like the old Tudor-Style homes.
Okay.
That's definitely my dream.
Okay.
That's my dream home.
Tudor-Style is like what is it?
Like the classic is like the peak with like the plaster with the like beigeish plaster and then like the kind of wood kind of going through it. You see a lot of them in like the Chippewa Park area in Welland.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like early 1900s or early 20th century.
The character homes.
Yeah. Love the character homes. So hard to find a large detached garage in those character homes. Yeah. So a bit of a... But yeah, that's... How about you? What are you guys talking about?
So we went like all over the place with this, but...
We explored.
So like what we really need... So we want a 2-car garage.
Okay.
And we will park our cars in there.
Okay.
I just...
The exact opposite of what I said.
I'm tired of like...
Snow on my car?
Exactly.
Forget it.
Like this garage is going to be used to keep our cars warm. And we want to have a home that's big enough that we can have our home office, right? We can have like, and we're trying to figure out what that looks like, but where we kind of ended up, and this is still very fluid, is we're thinking of like a nice raised bungalow.
Okay.
Something like a 1,200 square feet. So like this little bit bigger, right? Not too
Love a
squishy.
1,200 square foot raised bungalow.
And like we still have like a nice rec room space in the basement with additional rooms that we can, like maybe Yoshiko and I can have our own offices, or once an office, once a guest room, right? And still upstairs has enough space, right? 3 bedrooms, all of that. But again, the double car garage and a nice backyard that's like fully fenced. Kid can play, potentially get a dog or whatever.
Okay, you
right?
guys want a dog?
Yeah, like later. It's when the kid's old enough to take care of the dog.
Okay, there you go. I like that. Smart. Delegate responsibility. You want a dog? No problem. I take care of it.
Yeah, so
I like that.
it's kind of what I'm thinking, but I don't know, man. Like I was running the numbers, and maybe this is my
What was a home like that going to cost you?
I think I was looking at 800.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, 750 to 850, depending on how nice you want your finishes to be.
I just don't want to do renovations. Like it has to be already like just good to go, more or less. Like we'll be flexible, but like I've done renovations. I don't like renovations. I think other people have better taste than me. Like let them finish it, right? So yeah, around that 800 mark. But yeah, I was looking at like even if we put a solid down payment, get a mortgage at like 4.5, like the cost is still like 3,000, 3,500, like easily, right? And
yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it's one of those things to get adjusted to. Like I don't know how people like obviously I do mortgages, and sometimes I
This is what I do every day.
like it's more than just a number, right? Like when someone needs a mortgage, sure, we'll run your application. What can you qualify? What's the bank willing to lend? We run the numbers to show people like, okay, here's the mortgage, here's the property tax, like what do you actually pay out of pocket? Are you comfortable with it, right? But we always leave it up to the client to say like they see the number and they have to think about it, how it fits in their budget.
Right.
But when I do it for myself, I'm like, I am way less comfortable like than what the quote unquote based on your income you should be able to pay whatever. Like, and I don't know if that's because we run our own business and it does fluctuate.
I think it affects it.
Because like I want to like, I don't know, I feel like I want to take on liabilities at half of what people who make the same income make.
Yes.
Because I'm like, that way if my income goes down in half, I can still meet my
I'm still
life.
fine. I'm still good.
Right? Versus it's like if I take on stuff based on what I can borrow and then like I see a dip, I'm gonna be stressed the hell out, right? So anyways. Yeah. So race bungalow.
Yeah, those are nice. Those are really nice homes.
But so I think we can make all the numbers work at 800, but a piece of me is like, I'm paying 800 for a bungalow in Niagara, and like I'm even looking in like Welland. I'm not even looking in like Niagara on the Lake kind of thing,
Or
right?
Port Dalhousie, or
just like Welland. It's a nice part of Welland, but right? It's like I thought $1 million homes were in Toronto. Like,
I remember my good friends of mine. They bought a house, and I think it would have been 2022, and they were looking like 900,000.
okay,
And they were looking north at St. Catharines, where like you're getting less of a home than you're talking about for like that same price, right? Yeah. And he's just like, he looks at me and he's like, Ryan, when I was a kid, I dreamed of owning $1 million home, and he's like, and this just wasn't it. Like this is not what I dreamt of, owning $1 million home. Like I dreamt of owning one. I'm now owning one. It's just not at all matching what my dreams were, right? And I think that's funny because like you're gonna go now and Una's gonna be like $1 million home. What's that? Like that's what everybody has.
It's a starter home.
Yeah, like what do you mean? That's how you get into the market.
Oh man, yeah, I can't even imagine what type of home she has to buy 18 years from now, like 20 years from now.
I have no idea, man. It's gonna be crazy. I was on that same topic. I was playing hockey the other day, and one of the guys is a paramedic or whatever, and he was like, just got on the sunshine list. And he's like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Like, congrats, yada yada yada. And he's like, but dude, like, it's like, I remember dreaming of being on the sunshine list, and he's like, I thought I was gonna have way more disposable income than I do, right? Because even 20 years ago, like, think about how much more $100,000 meant as an annual income than it does now. Yeah. Like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, in 2004, you had $100,000 income. I don't know what the mortgage rates were, but you could probably qualify for really nice home.
Well, even this $800,000 race bungalow, like 8 years ago. So what was that? Like 250?
Yeah.
Like
maybe 3 and change.
Maybe 3.
3 and change. Yeah.
Like you make $100,000 easily, you afford it.
You're not even sweating the mortgage payments.
5% down, 10% down, whatever. An $800,000 purchase, you'd put less than 20. Like your payments are up there.
Yeah.
Right. Like. Yeah. Anyways, it's I guess it's life.
Yeah.
Just adapt to it.
And thankful that we can adapt to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Better than not. Like it's worse being in Toronto, I would say, and just having no hope of buying a house. Like if you're just in that situation where you're making $100,000 and it's like doesn't matter unless you have 200 saved up, right?
So, making 150 doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I lived in Toronto, I listened to this fellow I knew talk about how he knew couples who were like a doctor and a lawyer who had married each other, and they were buying their starter home, and they could barely afford to qualify for it. I was like, that sounds about right. Like.
It's a different world.
And I think house prices have gone up like 50% since then. So
yeah, exactly, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, the affordability issue is actually, it's an interesting one. I think it's been, I've recently started paying a lot more attention to it. So like we live in Welland, which really, until like this year, you didn't really see much like homelessness or that kind of stuff
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
But it is starting to happen. Like you saw, maybe you saw it a little bit in St. Catharines, saw it when you went to Hamilton.
Yeah.
But you didn't really see it hang a whole lot around here. Now all of a sudden St. Catharines is like, oh my gosh. Well, and you're starting to like see it. And this whole thing is starting to change, right? And you start to look at like, okay, well, obviously there's an affordability factor that's contributing to that. There's mental health and a lot of other factors as well. But you start to think about it and it's like, okay, well, like where do you go from an affordability perspective here?
Yeah.
Right? Because like obviously like the overall house price can't just plummet so that it's affordable for everybody. Because then the people who own homes are going to be
Well, the
really
banks
screwed.
go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right? If home prices drop 20-30% from here, like they've already
They
down.
come down 25%.
Yeah.
So to go down a full 50 is like,
Yeah. Well, then banks start taking massive losses.
Yep.
And not just losses. There's a certain point they just go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right? And the government doesn't let that happen. Yeah. The government insures something like 40% of all mortgages, right? So like they can't let house prices go down. The best outcome, I don't know if it's the best outcome for us, but like the best outcome is if house prices stay the same for a decade.
Yeah.
And incomes rise to catch up to it. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole lot of home building in that 10 years. That is like the best scenario where then supply.
Is that what like what is like, obviously we're just going to solve the world's problems today. What does housing affordability look like to you in, the greater Golden Horseshoe here? Like what does that actually look like? Is that what it is? House prices staying stable for a while and then people's income coming up to it? Is that the
I think
the
that's
path?
that's the best you can do in this situation.
Yeah.
I don't think because in Toronto, if house prices go down 50%, they don't become affordable.
No.
Right? Like if a $2 million home becomes $1 million, it really sucks for the guy who owns it. Mm-hmm. But for most buyers, $1 million home is still out of their reach.
Still not even close.
So I think affordability, in my mind, comes with a lot more purpose-built rental buildings.
Okay, I agree
that push down rental prices for old apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. And then now renters have a choice between, hey, here's a new building at the higher rent.
Yep.
And the older building is forced to keep rents lower because they have to compete with the higher price rental building.
Yeah.
Right. So that suppresses rents a bit. And to a certain degree on the buying a home side, yeah, I don't know how house prices get cheaper, right? Like,
but I mean, again, like even if you have affordable housing isn't necessarily like ownership either, right? Like,
sure,
affordable housing is just like genuine affordable housing, right? Where like if you do rentals, you'll run into people that like they apply for your unit that's a 2-bedroom basement apartment.
Yeah.
And you look at their stuff and you're like, I don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Because like you can't afford to pay our rent and put food on your table. Yeah. Like you just can't, right? So yeah, like that's interesting because I compare like I own a place in Cleveland, which is so like you compare a city like Cleveland to like a city like Welland. You would think there should be like exponentially more like homeless problems and all that kind of stuff in an area like Cleveland, large city. Everyone talks about how it's plummeted, yada yada yada, but like it's not the case. At least I don't have the exact numbers, but I've walked around, been through a lot of neighborhoods, in both, and it's not the case at all. Like you would say, there's a way worse problem here in a place that's 1/10 or less, 1/20th of the size, right? But when you go there, you can get rental apartments you can actually get an apartment for $600-700.
Wow.
You can rent an apartment for that, right? So, although there's still areas with $2 million homes, which is fine, but like if you're just a regular working person, you can actually like afford, because their minimum wage is pretty similar to ours actually, right? So
I mean, I think the best example I've seen of affordable housing is Japan.
Okay.
Now, in the recent years, their population has declined, but so that has put pressure on prices.
Right,
in the
to
sense,
go downward pressure. Yeah, makes sense.
But they experienced a massive boom in population after World War II.
Okay.
Crazy. I think their population tripled in like 30 years or something. It's crazy,
wow.
Right? They had to do everything to solve it. So that included no restriction on building. You can build townhouses, 4-plexes, 6-plexes, just anywhere in the country. Just blanket. And in addition to that, they did like a massive amount of government subsidized housing where the government was building 100, 200 unit apartment buildings and like multiple of them in like a neighborhood. So they're building like these neighborhoods of apartment complexes, all of which are apartment housing, like affordable housing. And again, it's the typical affordable housing. The only one who can do it is the government, which is 30% of your income, whatever your income is, right? But they just did this at a massive scale. I think that combination of like let builders build what is economically viable for a builder, and pay market rents, right? That'll be the nicer stuff. And for like the people you said who just can't qualify for anything else, it has to be the government that houses them. Who else is gonna like fill that need? And it is ultimately a social need. If you don't provide housing for that person's homeless. And if they don't have the ability to like earn more income to like get out of their situation, you can't just let them be homeless. That creates other problems. Right?
Like, I mean, you think about it from just like the pure base perspective. If you have a affordable, cheap house, you are going to be way more likely to be able to keep the job that you have. You have a job that you can't afford rent. You lose your house, their place to live. It's going to be very hard for you to keep a job.
And the scale matters, right? If you allow enough building to happen, then it's like people have the choice. They can choose the affordable housing, but they may not want to stay there because if they pay a little bit more, once they can afford it, they can move over to just a regular home, right? I was shocked when
It's a good point, actually, the scale.
Because if you only do government housing, then people will just stay there because they don't have any other option, right? Because I was shocked when we went to Japan. My sister-in-law was renting a condo, a 3-bedroom condo in a city that had over 1 million people, right? Like a major city next to Tokyo. And her rent was $1,200. A 3-bedroom above ground condo rental for $1,200.
Like you convert it was obviously you converted it kind of thing to like...
So it was a condo unit. Someone owned it and was renting it out. So she was just renting it from the landlord, right? 3-bedroom condo. So it wasn't in the best location. Like it was like a 30-minute walk to a subway, which is not good apparently. And like if it was closer, it'd be a bit more. Now their wages are a little bit lower than Canada. But I think that scale, it's like they are saving for building their own home. Like you're able to plan your life out a little bit more when housing isn't this massive burden on your personal finances, right? So and
we've become accustomed to that because like, I mean, you were just saying earlier, like, you know, you want to buy a house that's whatever, potentially 800,000. And you look at that mortgage payment, you're just, most people see a mortgage payment that's 40% of their gross income or whatever. That's what that's just normal. We'll just do that. Right. But things could change a lot if it was 25%.
You just have more space to have life in there. Take more vacations, just do more stuff if housing. Anyways, I'm a huge fan of like the house hacking for this very reason. It's like just minimize what your housing cost is, especially early on. But ultimately, it's like, it's a problem that has no easy answer.
No, it does not have an easy answer.
I think we've covered a lot of ground on this video.
That was good.